time to get real with your host, Alan Cohen.
Aloha, all of you nice people out there. Once again, it is a blessing and an honor to meet with you today. Today is an exciting day because we are going to address the subject that is among the most dear to my heart these days and in which I am most excited about participating. And that is healing and upliftment and transformation through the venue of what these days is called life coaching. So before we get in, I always like to say a short prayer to set the tone for our time together. So if you would, take a deep breath with me. We recognize that we have all come together at this time for a purpose, that there's no accident what I or my guests are going to say today or who's going to listen. We know that Great Spirit has guided us to be together, and my sincere intention is that everyone who's listening, live or on the archive, receives a blessing, an insight, a healing, an awakening, a heart opening, a grounding, whatever your spirit needs. We now open the door such that the divine mind speaks to your mind and your heart, such that something really profound and powerful and good happens in your life as a result of this hour together. And that good extends as ripples in your life and the lives of others that you touch after this time together. And so it is. I have been teaching and coaching and seminar leading for over 35 years. And it's been quite an evolution. And for the most of those years, I did mostly group seminars, a format that I really liked and really worked. And as time went on, I found myself working more one-to-one with the participants in these seminars, and I discovered that those were the most powerful moments in the seminar because it wasn't just me talking, it was me interacting with another human being who was having a problem or had an issue or a goal. And the transformations that happened with those seminar participants was really profound. They were the highlights of the programs. And the blessing was that when one person had an awakening or healing, because it was sincere, everyone who looked on got the benefits. So one person was working for everyone in that sense. And so about 6 years ago, I felt guided to share this powerful process because I thought if it was working for me, it can work for others. So I started a life coach training program just as an experiment. And to my amazement, it really took off. And I found that the students were actually helping people get their lives working and their lives were transforming. And they said, I want more. And so I realized that this entire process was guided by spirit. It was a way for people to get helped as they were helping people, and also for those who wanted to make a profession out of it and get out of the corporate world, to get out of working for someone else and set up their own business if they chose to do that. It was a great way to do what you love and be paid for it. So we've been doing this program with ever increasing results. It's just, each one gets more and more amazing. So I thought it would be fun today to have some of my students, and some who are out in the field and some who are still learning, but still getting their practice, to share what happens when you coach somebody toward their own transformation and what happens in your own life as you're doing that. So these are their words, not mine. I will invite 4 folks today, and we will talk to them each for about 10 to 12 minutes, and you will hear in their own words the dynamics of transformation. If you're ever considering getting coaching or becoming a coach, this will give you a great idea what happens in the process. So our first speaker today will be Monty. Monty, are you there?
I'm here. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for joining us. So share, if you would, some of your story about what happened as you decided to get into the coaching world and how your own life changed. I know you had a profound inner transformation, and you've gone on to be a professional coach and teacher, and you're really helping lots of other people. So tell us your story, dear, if you would.
Well, it's been a real process, and I guess I went through the training in 2010, and I thought that I was already sort of a life coach. I didn't really understand that I was going to have to sort of do some inner work first. I went to the training, and I sort of fell apart. I don't know what was happening then, but I think I was in the process. I've changed tremendously since that day 5 years ago. I can only say that I learned that I had to be the change that I wanted to see in other people. I guess that's the only way I can really say it. I had to really
well said,
work
yeah.
on myself before I could be there for someone else. And I realized that I had quite a lot of work to do, and I didn't really think that I did, but I did. So I started that process, and it's been amazing. It's been amazing for me. I'm transformed every time I coach someone, or I feel like I have grown tremendously because I know that these people are put in front of me for a reason, for me to recognize some of those things in myself.
Yeah.
And
you had a fairly significant identity shift. Would you be willing to talk about that when you came to the training and when you went on beyond
the
it?
first time?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, actually, I was a widow, but I had remarried, and it was 17 years after my husband had died, and I recognized through Alan that I hadn't ever really shed that I was still sort of carrying the widowhood around with me, even though I was extremely happy with my new life and had gone through my grieving process. I really was carrying it as a very old story. I needed a new story because the old story wasn't really working anymore. So that was a real breakthrough for me, because I came home and really looked into my closet, and I was wearing a lot of black. That was sort of a shock for me to see that. I thought I looked good in black, but I've since changed, and I immediately put a lot of color into that wardrobe, and it sort of helped me understand that transformation that I needed to make. The story was old and worn out, and I needed to step into the new space that I was now standing in, of just joy. I don't know why I was carrying it around for so long, but I was, and I see other people doing it too, so that helps me to try to help them let go. And an old story is an old story. So many people live in the past, and they live in the future, and they're not in the present. And my job is to help them get into the present. Stay away from the past. That's over. And we're in the future's not here. So that's what I try to do during my coaching segment.
Yeah. Well said. And thank you for your honesty around that. So one of our lessons in coaching is that when you do your own inner homework, you gain the power and the wisdom and the authority to help other people do the same. So do you find that and if you can think of any particular examples, that'll be even better, that in your sessions that you help people identify the old story they're hanging on to and help them get a new one? Can you think of any particular sessions where that came forth?
Recently, actually, I've been coaching a woman who has been having difficulty with her sister. Their mother is about ready to transition from this earth on, and they are having a lot of issues. It's a stressful time, but she called me and asked me for help. And the interesting part was these are issues that have gone back, for a long time. It wasn't really something new. It was something that she had to deal with. But every time we talked, it didn't seem like she had a breakthrough about it, like she was still bringing up the same things again and again that were happening in her life, and we would discuss them again, and I was trying to be a little bit intuitive to see if there's some other thing that I could ask her that would give her that opening that she needed.
Right.
And she finally, she actually called me today, and it's about the greatest phone call I guess you can ever get. She said, well, it took me a while, but I just got it. And I just want to thank you for changing my life. You have literally changed my life and how I view my relationship.
Wow.
And
how rewarding
it didn't
is
happen
that?
actually
Wow.
during the coaching session, but it happened later.
Great
love
example. Yeah, I mean, how rewarding is that someone tells you, thank you for changing my life. Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, what else would you rather be? Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, thank you so much.
Feels
So
good.
you're doing such good work. Now you're also you were familiar with working people in the corporate world with people in the corporate world, and you're also a yoga teacher, right? And you
Right.
use your skills to go into businesses and. I want to inspire our listeners because we get so many calls and coaching calls, and people say, "Oh, I just love to teach yoga or Reiki or acupressure or something like that." And I just don't know if I could leave the corporate world or could become my own entrepreneur. But you've been quite successful in setting up accounts with businesses to teach yoga, correct?
Oh, yes. And I left
tell
my
us
interior
about.
design career to do this.
Wow.
Because I had a very
Wow.
successful interior design career. But
Wow.
yes, I consider myself a corporate wellness consultant. So in that realm, I have life coaching, yoga, and mindfulness training. So I go into companies and I teach them, and there are a lot of wellness programs now. So I teach them all of those things. And I'm doing more life coaching with the people because the managers and the HR people really want their people to be happy and healthy. So I do coaching within the companies. And
they're paying you for this.
They sure are.
Well, hallelujah.
And hallelujah. And it's really fun. I've got great clients and great companies that really care about their people. And I feel like I'm making a difference. I'm only here in one town doing it, but so far, but I really enjoy what I do, and I get immediate gratification from it.
Amen. Wow. How eloquent. What a great success story. And so you have a website, don't you?
I do. It's Monty, Montie, Summers, SOMMERS, @gmail.com. My website is .com.
Yeah, MontySummers.com. So if you want to find out what Monty's doing or avail yourself of her services or just chat with her, you can contact her through the website, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. And before we close, Monty, anything you would say to someone who's considering receiving coaching or becoming a coach based on your experience?
Oh, it is like a self-realization course for yourself as well as who you're going to be helping. So I say go for it, and Alan is the best at what he does. He not only teaches it, he lives it. And so it makes it really easy to understand and to incorporate into your life. It has been an amazing journey for me, and the journey continues. And I just have to say that probably the best thing that's happened to me has been my connection to Source and the meditation that I came home from the very first time that I went to Ojai to see you. I came home and started my meditation practice, which has continued for 5 years, and got my husband to join in with me. And I meditate every day and every evening and keep myself pretty clear so that I can be there as a good listener for everyone, especially my students and clients.
Fabulous. What a great model and example. Oh, some of the stuff I hadn't known, but thank you so much, Monty. I'm just so glad you're doing so well. Thanks for joining us. Okay. And by the way, just parenthetically, we are having a new coach training starting in January, a 6-month course. I will tell you a little bit more about that later in the program, but for now, we're happy to listen to our current coaches talk about their experiences. So, Kat, are you there, Miss Kat?
I am here.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for asking.
Now, you are in our current coach training program.
That's correct.
And you've actually just a couple months into it, but I wanted you to come on the show because you've had some pretty profound transformations in your own life and even in the brief coaching sessions you've done. So let's talk about your own life first. So tell us where you came from and what's happening, where you're headed, and how your own life has shifted since you took up coaching.
I started on the, I guess you can call my spiritual journey, about a year ago when my marriage started failing, and I realized that I had to change myself rather than trying unsuccessfully to keep changing my husband. And I did a little bit of work, and then I started listening to you and your radio show and heard about your life coaching course and signed up for it. And when I got to Hawaii for the retreat, I had probably the most significant transformation ever in my life. I let go of so much of my past hurt and anger and resentment. And like Monty was saying, I let go of the story that I had been telling for years and years and years, and the story was how I identified myself. And when I let go of the story and decided...
What was this? Let me interrupt. What was the story? We want to hear what the story was that you let go of and the story that you stepped into instead.
The story that I let go of was that I was worthless and I would never amount to anything, and just thoughts along that line. And, you know, I had grown up in the era that children should be seen and not heard, and I let go of all of that, and I stepped into my new story of I am worth it, I am worthy, and I deserve to be here. And one of the things about me is most of my life that came from hearing that I was worthless is that almost every single day of my life I thought about suicide. And in part of the story that I let go was I stopped thinking about ways to die and started thinking about ways to live every single day.
Wow.
And that was so profound for me. And I started thinking of ways to help other people go through the same transformation that I had gone through. It was liberating in ways that I can't even begin to explain. So,
wow.
That
I got
was the
goosebumps.
transformation.
Just phenomenal. Thank you. Wow. And you've taken some big steps to change your life?
I have.
Tell us a little bit about what changes you made since you've entered this path.
One of the most significant changes is the positive outlook I have on life now. I'm more upbeat. I'm more encouraging. I'm not cynical of myself or anybody else anymore. Even when people around me are trying to be critical, I want to look for the best in everybody and just shine love and light. I don't play with those people anymore. I've let go of all of the negativity and picked up as much positive as I can in my life.
Right.
And trying to help others do the same thing.
And I think you told me that some of the people who knew you before you went through the training said, wow, you're different now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever I came home from Hawaii, I had several people tell me that I was no longer the person that I was whenever I got on the plane to go to Hawaii.
Yeah. We hear that often.
Yeah. My best friend, when I got home, she said, who are you and what have you done with Kat? Because you're so different now. So, yes, completely different.
Right on. What a great story. Now, you've had some successes in your coaching world, formally and informally. Talk first about the fellow who was thinking about changing his marriage status and how you worked with him.
Yes, one of my clients he was considering getting divorced after a little over 30 years in marriage. And he just wasn't sure what he wanted to do. He didn't know if all of the conflicting emotions were normal, and I assured him that they were, and I shared a little bit of my own story and my recent divorce. And as the session progressed, and he still wasn't sure if he wanted the divorce or wanted to work things out, and he was really critical of his wife and how she had changed through the course of the marriage. And I asked him to look at the reasons behind the behavior and just over the course of his marriage. And I guess in our second session, I finally asked him if he had made the decision whether or not he really wanted the divorce or not, or if he wanted to stay in the marriage. And he said, well, I really don't know. So I used one of the techniques that we had learned, which is to toss the coin. And I asked him, one side of the coin is to stay in the marriage, and one side is to get divorced. And he said, okay. And he held onto the coin for a long time and didn't want to toss it. And finally, when he tossed it, he didn't want to look at it. Excuse me. And I said, what are you feeling right now? And he said, well, I don't even want to look at the coin. I know I want a divorce. And I said, okay, that's what I wanted to know is what your decision was. And he looked at the coin. He said, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. He says that I should go ahead, or the coin confirms that I want the divorce.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was extremely relieved that he finally just let that wash over him, and he knew that that was in fact what he wanted to do.
Right. Now, we should state here, just for the listeners, that this is a technique we teach as part of the coaching. The idea is not that the coin should tell you what to do. We're not that simplistic. But when you see what the coin says, you notice your feeling about what the coin says, and it helps you tap into whether your feeling matches what the coin says or not. So it's really a technique to get at your true choices, regardless of what the coin says. And the other point I want to make is that we train our coaches never to tell anybody to do anything. We don't advise people to get a divorce or particular health treatment. The whole purpose of the coaching that I teach is to elicit the answers that the client would choose out of their own conscious choice, rather than having an authority figure tell you what to do. Let's talk about one more thing. You've had some profound changes in your relationships with your kids. Now, I know some of the material is sensitive. I won't ask you to tell all that, but you've had some doors open for communication and healing with your kids. Can you touch on that briefly without giving away too much of the details?
Sure. I did have a conversation with my son not too long ago. He was having some relationship issues and just didn't quite know what to do. He was very frustrated, and the way he had handled things in the past was he's just done. He doesn't want to deal with it. He just wants to be done. And he came to me and asked, and I was able to, I guess I wasn't able to, but I asked him some things about how he would feel if he handled it in this particular way, and just calmly talked to him, and he was able to finally decide that he didn't want to just pack up and be done. He wanted to pursue the relationship, and he was going to, discuss it with his girlfriend and this and that. And I asked him if he was able to have a calm, rational discussion with her rather than getting mad. And he said yes. And he said, Mom, you've changed. You used to get mad and be done, and I learned that from you. And now you want to talk it out. And I said, well, it's because of this course I'm taking and these skills that I'm learning. So
Wow.
My relationship with my daughter has completely turned around, and I'm able to have
long, heartfelt conversations with her as well, where, in the past we would just get mad at each other and hang up the phone. So my relationship with my kids has completely turned around because of this.
How much is that worth? I mean, you can't put a price on it. It's just the healings of a lifetime. So, and you're doing so well. You've just been in the program a short time, but you're really working the skills, and nothing makes me happier than to know that you find these benefits in your personal life.
Exactly.
Anything else you want to say before we anything else you want to share before we close, Kat?
No.
Okay. Thank you for coming on. I'm so proud of you. As we mentioned, we're for those of you who are now getting interested in life coaching, we're starting a program starting January of 2016, and if you're listening to an archive when January 2016 has passed, we do this program a couple times a year. We only take about 16 students per program by choice, so I can have an intimate connection with everybody. I get to know everybody very well, person to person. I have good relationships with everyone. It's a 40-lesson online course. There's 14 one-hour teleseminars. There's a 4-day retreat in Maui, Hawaii. There's personal coaching with me, and there's a lot of group support. One of the most wonderful benefits of this program is that people bond. Some of them stay friends for a lifetime. And if you're looking for a community of like-minded, uplifting, positive peers, you will not find a more exciting and vibrant and heart-connected community. So if you're interested in this program, go to my website, alancohen.com, and you can complete an online application, and we'd love to enfold you in this healing journey for yourself and others. Okay, our next guest is Dr. Peter, who is a successful pediatrician, who is now is a successful author as well. We'll have him talk about his book as well. And he has gone into life coaching, not necessarily to change his career, but to employ coaching techniques in his current practice, which he's doing beautifully. So, Peter, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Alan. It's a real honor to join you and my good friends. I call them my soul brothers and my soul sisters.
Yeah. And you're one of our most avid listeners to this show. How does it feel to be on this show after you're listening for years?
Well, it's a dream come true. As you know, Wayne Dyer had a huge influence in my life, and Wayne taught the power of intention. And fortuitously, I'll explain maybe if time allows, I started to listen to you, Alan, in the fall of 2013. Yeah. And then what happened was I hardly missed a week, and thank heavens to Hay House for archiving this in case you're not around when it's live. You can always listen later in the archive. And by listening to you, I could tell you are real, as I think it was Monty said. You live these principles, and I think all your students would agree with me. Yeah. And then what happened was. Through a turn of events, my wife, almost 2 years ago, collapsed. Her heart malfunctioned. She almost died. We thought we lost her, but God's goodness allowed her to survive. And I told you about that. I sent you an email. You sent an email back, which I still keep as a bookmark. You said to me, Peter, you're both doctors. My wife and I are both physicians. You said, maybe the two of you will learn something from this. And sure enough, we did. And so one thing led to another, where I listened to you, and as our listeners today hear about the upcoming course, I heard about it. And Alan, it's just totally fascinating that I looked at my journal, and 10 years ago, it was on my bucket list to take life coach training. But the universe kept on calling, and I ignored that call. And as Wayne Dyer teaches, the power of intention, listening to callings. I just said, I'm going to just email you and ask if I could join this group, and you were kind enough to accept me into the group, and it's one of the best decisions I've made. I'm 59, I'm a marathon runner, I'm in good health, and I really enjoy life, but, I've never been to Maui. I was born in South Africa, I live in Canada, and my wife told me the problem with Maui is once you go there, you don't want to come back. I almost didn't come back.
True, very true.
It's geographically and environmentally very nice, but I think summer Monty also said, the meditation in the mornings, you start the day with meditation like you start your show. Boy, I tell you, it just gets you centered, gets you ready to receive. It turns you into a healer, gets you all excited, and it's just humbling to grow together as a group. And as Kat was saying, it's transforming, totally transforming. Like a butterfly comes from a caterpillar. There's no way that butterfly can return and become a caterpillar again. You change forever. And it's not about us. It's not about us. It's about us helping other people. We came here to be truly helpful. And you also taught us the healer's prayer, which teaches when we get healed, when we let him teach us how to heal. And I was just sitting here speaking as a doctor, thinking that some would say doctors are healers, but I think every life coach is a healer and has the potential to become a healer. And couples, husbands and wives, have benefited from this too. I think we'll hear more about it coming up soon. But the bottom line really is that you live these principles, and it was a great decision that I made. Absolutely no regrets, and I'm really excited that I may stop seeing children as a pediatric specialist in the next few years, but I'll continue till my last breath, God willing, to be a life coach.
Wow. Goosebumps again. Thank you. In your current practice, Peter, how have you used these principles? Because you're still a doctor, and there's lots of people who take this course and they don't want to quit their job. They're happy in their job, or they just want to go deeper or have stronger connections and use it in the current context. So tell us a little bit about how you've worked these principles into your current medical practice.
Well, the neat thing is these principles are so practical, and you get results, and you get it very quickly. I see a lot of obese patients. About a third of my practice are overweight kids. Pediatric obesity is a huge problem. And what I've seen, Alan, is if you become the coach to these families and you become really a mirror to them, they already know the answers inside of them. They are the guru. They are the experts. They know what to do and what not to do. But by being a life coach, you bring out the best in them. And as we've heard earlier on the program today, when people say, you've really changed my life, there's no way money can pay for that. I get close to tears sometimes when people do that. Sometimes people would hug me and vice versa, and it's just a moment of celebration where you've helped another person heal. You've given them a breakthrough. You've helped them to see they already have so much in them that they didn't see until they met you. And as you've said in the beginning of the program, there are no coincidences. There's a purpose to everything. Yeah. And when you see all these things come together, the power of intention, it's just like you say, goosebumps and a sense of peace, Alan. As our listeners know, you're an author, and your most recent book is A Course of Miracles. I'm looking at a copy on my desk as I speak to you. Great book, really promoted to my patients and others. And the book talks about you're either in a place of fear or a place of total peace and love, and that's really what healing is about. As a physician and as a life coach, I think we're facilitating that healing where you take people away from having fears, whether it's an unhappy marriage or losing a job or not being good enough, to a place of I'm worth it, I'm different, I'm transformed, I can do this.
Yeah. And you've actually coached other physicians and used these techniques, and the point is that there's nobody who's beyond being able to benefit from coaching, including people who are professionals and doctors, because we each have our own cutting edge of growth, and nobody's beyond being able to be supported by a peer. So you've actually used these techniques in supporting your peers. Yeah.
Not so long ago, I met with a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist, and I used this method of, just put your hand on your heart. You taught us that. Put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and I'm going to say something, and you see how you feel about it. He's also working on a book. He wanted to meet with me because I authored a book this year, and published by Balboa Press. But anyhow, my friend really could feel, I could tell when he closed his eyes, his face, was just lighting up. And here's a psychiatrist. I really felt, that fear that said, wow, what are you thinking, helping a psychiatrist?
Right.
You should know about these things. But, you make a good point, Alan, and that is that we're all equal. We're all on this journey together. Nobody's the guru.
Yeah, yeah. So isn't it wonderful that you helped another professional through kindness and love, and I'm sure he's a wonderful psychiatrist and you're a wonderful doctor, and yet these techniques sort of grease or oil or make whatever you're doing already more proficient and more powerful. And I know that this experience enabled him to go back and help his patients. Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in fact, the healer's prayer. I would love it if listeners call in and ask you, Alan, about the healer's prayer.
Yeah.
Because it's a wonderful prayer. I showed this to my psychiatrist friend, and he took a picture of my iPhone. I carry that on my iPhone because wherever I go, the prayer goes with me.
Yeah.
And he took a picture of it too. And it's just really, really beautiful to see how people move forward and find their groove and discover things about themselves they didn't know, but that was already there, and the coach just facilitated that.
We will do the healer's prayer before the end of the show. Before we have to close, Peter, you wrote a wonderful book. I want to help you support that. Tell us about the name of the book and what it's about.
Well, the book is called Moving Forward, and it's almost a coincidence, or maybe not, that what we're talking about today, people that may have gone through losing a spouse or being a widow, letting go of the past or letting go of negative environments. I think there's a need for all of us to be present, but to also move forward, to grow, to improve yourself, to help other people. So that's the title of the book, Moving Forward. And it's available on Amazon and at Balboa Press. Balboa is part of Hay House, I believe.
Right.
And it's been a real honor to write this book. You feature in the book, as you know, because you're incredibly inspirational, Alan. And I just thank you for the privilege, the opportunity to join you all today. And
thank you, sir.
It's just a sense of total peace, no fear, and a great moment
That's
of
the game.
healing.
That's the game. Thank you. You have a website, don't you, Peter?
Yeah, the web. I have
it
one
just
website
pediatric?
that links. It's just DR, D as in donkey, R as in Roger, and then my name, NIEMAN.com. And on that site, I blog too about things, and it's called MovingForwardDaily.com.
Great. So check it out. Dr. Peter Nieman, NIEMAN.com.
Yeah.
It's Dr. drnieman.com,
Yeah,
right?
just drnieman.com.
Okay, very
Usually
good.
people make the mistake of the E before the I. I'm not as famous as the Neiman Marcus store. For me, it's I before E, except after C. So Neiman.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Peter. I'm so pleased to hear that this is working in your life and your practice. You are a light to your clients and patients.
I really appreciate it. It's because of you, Alan. You've inspired all of us. Thank you for this.
Big hugs, brother. Thank you. Before our last guest, I just want to, in case you tuned in during the second half of the show and you're interested in pursuing life coaching, we are starting a new session in January 2016 and also later on in 2016. Again, go to my website, alancohen.com, and there's a link to the website for the coach training. It's a life changer. It's just, the more I do it, the more I love it and the more benefits I see, and there's a community that builds around you, and we're teaching more and more techniques to build your business as a life coach if you want to do that, or if you just want to use it personally or in your current profession, you can certainly do that. Let's go to our final exciting guest today, Ms. Carol. Are you there, Carol?
Yes, I am. Hello, and thank
hello.
you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Now, just off the bat, we have to mention that you have come to coaching after retiring from an unusual career. Would you care to share what that was?
Yes, I was a police sergeant. I retired after 25 years in law enforcement, and I actually just absolutely loved that career. It was a wonderful career for me, but it was time for me to move on, and so I did.
Well, good for you. And I'm so glad you moved in my direction because I got to know you and enjoy you and see the wonderful changes in your life. So talk a little bit, if you would, dear, about your process of choosing to become a life coach and what's happened in your life since then. I know some really interesting things. So whatever you want to share, we'd love to hear.
So when I retired, I knew that I probably wanted another full-time career, but I didn't know what that was going to be. And I was very anxious when I retired. I felt like I had lost my identity. I felt like I didn't have a purpose anymore. And then I also was struggling personally with how I identified being in my 50s and how I perceived society perceived me. And so I was really having a hard time. And I actually injured my hand, and that was kind of a wake-up call to me. I'd been retired 2.5 years, and I knew the minute I injured my hand that I kind of wasn't in my right place, and that I needed to start really loving myself and working on myself. And I knew that I couldn't give unless to society, I couldn't give to my family, I couldn't move on to the next stage in my life, whatever that was, and I didn't really know what that was until I took care of myself and loved myself, and I had to really face myself in the mirror and figure out what that was. So
wow.
I started to work on myself and love myself, and several really close family members said, you should do life coaching. And it was my brother-in-law, Paul, who listened to your show for years, said, oh, my gosh, you've got to look into Alan Cohen. And it was just like a match made in heaven when I read about your program. And I was just so excited because so many of the principles I had already been using in my life. And in my career in law enforcement, actually, many of those things I had used to get my job in law enforcement and to promote in law enforcement, and I was really proud of some of those principles that I had used, and I felt like those really were who I was at the core. And I wanted to use life coaching, especially in my blended family. I've been married 28 years, and I have a stepdaughter who came to live with us full time when she was 14. But then I have a stepson who was not raised in our family, and he wasn't. We didn't meet him until he was 18. And then me and my husband have our own daughter who is now 18. So we have kind of a mixed family. And I had approached all those decisions and all those experiences with love. And whenever there was a new experience coming up, I just thought, there's never enough love in the world. And so I just feel like our home was harmonious because of that approach. And that was the approach that you have in the life coaching. And so I just felt like I have that to share. And pretty much that's what brought me to life coaching.
Great story. And I remember in one of our chats you said that, after I retired, I really needed a purpose, and this gives me something to express myself and help people and potentially earn some income. And so it kind of shifted out of one career you love to another level of a new career that you love. You've had some really cool upgrades in your relationship with your husband. Would you talk about that? It's a delightful story.
Yes. So, as I mentioned, we've been married 28 years, and, a marriage always has, ups and downs, and good times and bad times, and you just, we have never communicated that well. It's always been a struggle, not because one of us are right or wrong, but because we communicate very differently. And we have always recognized this really early in our relationship. And so it's just in that area it's been a struggle. But when, one of the principles that we learn in life coaching is to be one, a compassionate listener, and that is to listen and not respond at all, but just listen with the intent to really hear the other person's story.
Beautiful.
And then the other thing we learn is to be a reflective listener, and that is to hear and listen to the story with the intent to mirror back in a way that lets the other person know, I heard what you said. Is this what you said? Yes, it is, or not. And so those two principles and me practicing those things have made a big difference, because now instead of, I'm doing dishes and he's talking to me and I go, what did you say? Huh? Or, he says, I told you that. And I'm like, what? When did you tell me that? Well, now, he has more of my focused attention, and I'm really learning to be such a better listener. And he says, oh my gosh, it has, he goes, we are at a better place than we've ever been. And, it just is making both of us feel so good. It's just exciting, to be at this time in our life and be together so long and feel like we're just so new and refreshed.
Yeah. Wow. It's like a marriage renewal of sorts.
Yes, of course it is.
And
it's exciting.
And as Kat said in her earlier sharing that, she gave up trying to change her husband and decided to change herself. And it sounds like you two have had an internal shift that has spilled over to improve your relationship with your husband without having to change him. And you kind of changed him without trying.
Exactly. And I do have always believed in that principle, that you don't change the other person. Look at yourself and how you can improve, and that will make a shift. And as I have really been soul searching, of course, it definitely made a shift in our relationship. And as I am now allowing him, to be himself, and we've had coaching sessions, with him and I, and he can share things that he probably didn't feel comfortable sharing before. And so it's been wonderful.
Oh,
I recommend it for anyone who is married or in a serious relationship or anything. I mean, it just totally changes your relationship.
Yeah. Well, I hear the joy in your voice and the peace, and it's just nothing could be more rewarding to me than to hear that your life is improving because of what we're doing together. So thank you. We can teach the principles, but you have to apply them. And all of our guests today have indeed applied the principles big time in their own way. And you've certainly done that, Carol. So thank you for living the teachings and reporting on it. And this will spill over to lots of other relationships too, don't you think?
Thank you. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. You don't have a website up yet, do you?
No, I do have it's Ahana Life Coaching on Facebook. It's AAHANA Life Coaching, and my website will be live in February when I get my certificate. But if anyone is interested in being coached in the meantime, I do have my Facebook page up.
You connect with Carol on her Facebook page. Sounds good. Okay. Thank you for joining us, my dear. I'm so glad we connected.
Thank you.
Okay. We have just a few minutes left, and as I promised through my discussion with Dr. Peter, we're going to include the healer's prayer in our final meditation. Once again, I want to thank all of my guests today. I think you'll agree they're all sincere and eloquent, and coaching really complements other things. So if you're someone who's having psychology counseling or psychotherapy or working with another doctor, we totally support that. We recognize the validity and importance of all paths of healing, and we empower all teachers and healers in their own way. And in life coaching, we seek to complement that and support, everybody who's seeking to give healing or receive healing in any way. We're all in this together. We all want to work together to make it work for our clients. So in our last few minutes, we'll put on a little music and we'll take a deep breath together. And we'll this is the Healer's Prayer from A Course in Miracles. And it's on page 28 of the text, if you're looking for it. And the Course uses the patriarchal name Him for God, but you can certainly substitute she or spirit or it as you like. And this applies to anybody who wants to help in the world in any way. I am here only to be truly helpful. And I'll just add my own words now. I want to serve. I want to make a difference in the world. I want to make the world a better place. I want to leave people with a good feeling after being with me personally and professionally. I want to relieve suffering. I want to take the burden from people in any way that I can help. I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent Him, Spirit, God, who sent me. And so I put the ego aside, and I put smallness aside, and I put personality aside, and I pray, and I say, Great Spirit, I offer myself in your service, whether I'm a doctor or a psychiatrist or a mother or a nurse or a teacher or a parent. I now partner with higher power so I can bring that divine energy through and make a difference. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because the Great Spirit that sent me will direct me. And so if I'm entering into a coaching session or a healing session or a business negotiation or a family discussion, I don't have to struggle with what am I going to say, what am I going to do. I turn that meeting, I turn that session over to higher power, and I trust that I will know exactly what to say in the moment I need to say it, in a way that brings healing not just to the listener but to me. I am guided. I am loved. I am supported. I am content to be wherever He wishes, wherever Spirit wishes, knowing He goes there with me. So everywhere I find myself is an opportunity for healing, connection, and love. If I am somewhere, I'm not alone. And so if somebody comes to me who seems odd or weird or in a non sequitur or disagreeing with me, I recognize it's no accident that this person has come to me. There is an opportunity for joining and connection. And if I have a client who is ornery or resistant, I am not put off, because I realize that this person has come for help, and I am trusting that I can support that person. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. And so as I offer myself as a servant, as a healer, the healing energy moves through me. As I uplift, I am uplifted. As I am kind, I receive the benefits of kindness. As I am compassionate, I find compassion for myself. So I can rest assured knowing that all of my services are guided, and all of my services must succeed because I have partnered with God. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you for joining us. Once again, I am deeply grateful to my guests who were so eloquent and honest and really have spoken so graciously about what happens in coaching. Once again, if you'd care to join me on this coaching journey, please go to my website, alancohen.com, and click on the Life Coach Training icon. I will be honored to have any of you join me. And even if you never join me, if I never see you, then I bless you on your coaching journey, whatever that is, on your healing journey. Each of us is a coach and a healer in our own right, whether you call it one thing or another, it doesn't matter. Thanks for coming. See you next week. God bless.